J.K. Horse's Never Give Up video today. I'm never going to give up, but my heart is broken. I have a dream, said a guy who led a civil rights movement that changed the world. Literally changed the world. Nobody gives it enough credit. They're not even thinking about it today. If they did think about it and they did read his speech, which I have today several times, they would understand that the civil rights movement has come light years and that we're at the end of a light year to get her done. We're at the end of the light year because what he wanted was, he had a dream where he said that my 4 little children can live in a nation where they are not judged on the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That's one of the dreams he had. He said, I have a dream about lots of things. He said over and over and over, I have a dream. But one of the greatest things he said was that right there. And I want to ask you a question about what's going on here. What about the content of the character of the guy that was murdered, that we're putting his name and his face and his picture on our t-shirts and on the Megatron, and we're making this big deal about a guy who is a disgrace to Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and all the other real martyrs, the people that really are martyrs. They weren't criminals. They weren't high on drugs the day they got arrested and then brutally murdered. Martin Luther King was standing on a balcony and was picked off. That's more horrible than the 8-minute video of George Floyd. Because they shot a great man, not a criminal who was maybe trying to become a great man. That guy is not worthy of being a martyr. Candace Owens is a black person who said that, and she has received so much ridiculous backlash from evil men with conspiring hearts. Those are the people that are giving her backlash. Those are the people. The reason we have riots in America today and looting and murders and all this stuff going on about a martyr that's not worthy of being a martyr is because there is a group of evil men who have evil designs in their hearts and conspiracies to destroy our country, and all they want is for everybody to be mad, and they're getting that done, aren't they? Have you seen Minnesota? Have you seen Minneapolis? Have you seen these cities that look like war zones? That's what they're getting done. They're not getting us to believe Black Lives Matter. What they're getting done is they're getting everybody upset. They're trying to start a war. This guy right there said some unbelievable things. He said, we have to forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. That's hardly looting and murdering. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. I haven't read this speech. LeBron, Michael Jordan committed $100 million. Let's read this speech and let's find out right exactly where your $100 million ought to go, because this guy got more civil rights for his people than any other person in the history of any civil rights movement in the history of civil rights. Period. Look them up. Look at all the stuff that couldn't be done. 4 white only signs. They couldn't vote. I mean, on and on and on. That has all changed because one guy said, I have a dream. And he wouldn't let violence be part of his life. And he gave his life for it. Why don't we turn our attention to how he did it? Let me tell you how else he did it. He said, again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting force with soul force, physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust all white people. That's the best civil rights guy in the whole world said we shouldn't be cussing them for white privilege and making them feel guilty. He said, must not lead us to distrust all white people. And then he says some stuff that you need to hear. Whoever you are, if you live in the United States of America and you understand anything that's going on in this country, you need to hear these words and you need to internalize them and live them. And he said this. It's just hard for me to say it. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. Now that's what we need to understand. Our destinies are tied up together. We have to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. That's the only time when peace can abide. He said, they, white people, have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. It's amazing the things that he says that we need to listen to. I had the great privilege of driving into a gas station the other day, and I saw a friend of mine pulled over, parked right next to him. He was a cop and a Marine, a basketball coach, and he just happens to be black and one of my favorite people. And we literally stood there on a Friday night and talked for 3 hours, standing outside our car in the shade of the gas pump. And I was able to ask him, what am I missing here? What am I missing here? What do I need to do differently that I haven't already done in my life? And he was able to ask me the same question. And I have a better understanding now. And I'm thankful for people like that in my life. And I would encourage you to go find your neighbor, the one that's not his color, and try to figure out what's going on and how you can get along and how you can realize that your freedom is inextricably bound to his freedom. And that if you don't understand that your destiny is the same as his destiny, then you're not ever going to figure this out. No amount of I'll donate this money, no amount of rioting and looting and we're had enough and we're standing up will ever get it done. The very guy that wrote this speech said, hate won't help hate. Another great man said, darkness doesn't dispense darkness. Only light can do that. Only love can get rid of hate. I encourage you to read that speech. It's one of the great things that ever happened in our country. And it is the answer to the problems we have now. Never give up.